Great. I think we can start. People will join in as and when they can. So welcome to Hevo's first Data Bytes and Insights webinar. We're super excited to have everyone here. Today we have Rodrigo Benavides from Danu Consulting Group, as well as Arun Chaudhary from Hevo Data. They'll be taking us through how to build a modern data stack in a very scalable and robust manner for advanced data science applications. With that, I think they can give their own introduction and go ahead with the webinar. Thank you, Rodrigo. Over to you.
Perfect. Good morning, good evening, everyone, depending on where you're from. I'm going to be sharing a few insights of my experience as a consultant and also as a data scientist and data engineer in order to how to build a modern data stack from the ground up. So a little bit about me. I graduated from Applied Mathematics and Statistics in 2018, and I have a master's degree in data science, both from the University of Notre Dame. And I've worked in data science roles in financial services, food and beverage, and even a baby development app. So I have a wide experience in different industries. And I have over 8 years of experience in data science and statistics. A little bit on my company, Danu Consulting. We were founded in the summer of 2022. We have over 10 clients with 30 different projects, and our areas of expertise are data governance, strategy, cloud migration, business intelligence, machine learning. We also have some automated social media reports, and we are CRM consultants, which are customer relationship management consultants as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the general scope of data science and then go a little bit deeper and how a good stack is built, right? So the hot topics today in data science are all related to machine learning and AI, generative AI and open AI and Brad. And so it's really important to understand that this is only the tip of the iceberg. It's only what we are aspiring to, but there's a lot that needs to go on before that we need to work on in order to get to this process. What do we need to have first in our own companies? We need to have solid foundations in our data, which are digitalization, access, and control. If we do not have these three well-defined, then it's going to be very hard to implement a good machine learning and AI model. So a few questions that I want you to ask yourselves is, do we have the data that we need? If we're looking to do a report on our company headcount, do we have a good source of truth for our different roles and how many people have gone in and out of our own company, right? Do we have that data? How can we access it? If the only way we can access it is through an Excel sheet or it's in a database that has like 10 different security requirements that make it sort of impossible to use, then it's going to be very difficult to work with it, right? Then we need to focus on the middle ground, which are the strengths. We need to have good data governance. We need to understand whether there is an established process and who is the owner of it and who is how the process is being complied. And then we need to look at the infrastructure. Do we have the infrastructure in place in order to implement all of our different projects? If we only have our own computer, it's going to be very difficult to scale our different projects on data and implement a machine learning model. So do I have the scalability to grow? If I start off with 10,000 rows and do a machine learning model on 10,000 rows, will it be just as easy to scale from 10,000 to 1 million? That's a question that you guys need to ask yourselves. That's why the cloud is very important. And that's why you need to have a good data stack model for this. And finally, one step below machine learning and AI is business intelligence and analytics. This is very important so that you guys can view and understand your data and take decisions before moving on to something a lot more complicated. And a question that we have for this area is, how can I view my data, right? If the only way I view my data is via via Excel sheets, then that's going to be really hard to make decisions with. That's why we aspire to make dashboards with Power BI or Tableau or any other business intelligence platform that you use. And then at the end, once you have all of these different phases of the pyramid, we start working our way from the bottom up. And once we're up there, and once we create a machine learning model or AI model, how can it go into production? How can we get our new data to go into our model and get an output, right? So the first part is the digitalization, access, and control. It's not just about having rows in your database. It's about getting actionable insights in order to make decisions for your own companies. So the first thing we need to understand is, how is the data captured? It's very different to get, for example, sales orders captured via an e-commerce platform where you get sometimes I've seen 150 different columns and variables for each order versus when you're doing it with pen and paper. So that's something that you guys need to understand in your different processes and how it'll help the different data stack. Who has the absolute truth? There are sometimes created data silos where the finance teams have the sales data with a few of the filters, but the commercial team has a different sales data, and the C-suite has different sales teams. So it makes it very complicated to make a decision if we do not have the absolute truth. So getting this under control is a must. And finally, as I said before, how can we access the data? This is really important because if we cannot access it, then we cannot use it and we cannot make decisions off of it. With data governance, the first thing we need to understand is that it is a process, and it is a tedious process that has a lot of change management and it works with a lot of people. But if you have the right synergies between workflows, technologies, and people, it is one of the biggest assets any company can have. So the first thing we need to understand is, who is the owner for this data? And is, again, with the example from the sales, is the sales team the owner of the data, or is the C-suite team or the owner of the data? This is something that needs to be understood and comprehended. The second part is compliance. For example, if the sales team is responsible for inputting and capturing all the sales data, do they have the correct processes so that it's being done correctly? Going back to the e-commerce versus pen and paper example, I've seen with a few of my clients where since it was being done on pen and paper, just to get a sales order up, if you filled out every variable and every checkbox that's needed, it would take about 10 to 15 minutes to fill out. So what people usually did to speed it up is leave a few in blanks, right? Or do a few abbreviations. With security, I've seen clients that do not allow open ports, and they close everything and it's like nothing can enter here. And while it is a safe measure for your data security, part of the data security as well is that what you're seeing and using is actually correct. So if you cannot access it and analyze it, then what's the point of having that data if it's not well protected? And right now, for example, with Hevo and different ETL tools and cloud infrastructures, there are a lot of security measures that are in place, right? Do we have the right technology? Again, with a pen and paper example, it's really easy to build a forms or a sales sheet that's digital instead of having pen and paper. Do we have that process? And finally, do we have the knowledge well documented and our code well documented so that we can plug and play different people into the process? So a few of the benefits of having a cloud infrastructure, I'm gonna go by these real quick. Since you're not worrying about the infrastructure, then you can focus on the process, and since it's like an on-demand basis, you can start playing with how you can optimize your databases. It's a really big benefit. You have an updated system. Sometimes I've seen clients that have SQL 2014, and I've seen clients that who are in the cloud, they have the latest version of SQL. You can integrate a lot of different sources and this is where Hevo also plays a role. If you have sources from Facebook ads, Google ads, Facebook pages, you can put them all in the same database. Your time to market gets a lot shorter. If you have an on-premise database, it's going to be a lot harder to create all the different endpoints for the thousands of apps that are out there. In my experience, it's a much better experience to work and code in the cloud than using an on-premise service. This is also very important, is that you create a sort of like a sandbox environment. So you can create your own queries and reports and products without affecting the data source. So this is really important in order to scale and in order to provide new products. Cost is usually low, depending on what you want. If you want a virtual machine with 256 gigabytes of RAM, is going to cost a lot, but you can always start up low and keep increasing as your company increases, right? And also there's better efficiency. Your reports take a lot, since there are serverless data warehouses, it takes a lot less to grow and to run your queries than if you were to be on-premise. So is there a way to connect your sources to the cloud? We have our sources, depending on the company, depending on your needs, but usually companies have an on-premise database. They have a back office SQL or sort of like a software tailor-made to their own. They have Excel files, they have social media accounts, and they usually have digital platforms like apps and such. And on the cloud, if we want to build the full stack, then we want to create our data lake where we can get our cold storage in. And from that, we move it to our data warehouse. And from our data warehouse, we're able to create different reports and Excel files, create our automated dashboards, and also implement machine learning models. But as we can see here, there's a big disconnect between the two different ecosystems. So that's something that needs to be fixed. So how do I set this up? How do I fix this? This is where ELT comes into play. ELT means extract, load, and transform. What do we extract? The data from our different sources. We load it into our cloud infrastructure, and then we transform it into the way that we want it. Now we can work in the way that we can work with the data the way that we want it. And Hevo is the engine that helps lead the process. So I'm going to show you how. So is there a way to connect our sources to the cloud? Yes, there is. We have our sources this way, all in their own different database or different source. We have our cloud infrastructure, and then we bring in Hevo Data that is in charge of connecting all of these different sources into our data lake, so we can start working and using our data for different BI and data science processes. So I'm going to show you a small demo. Arun is going to go a little bit in depth, but I just wanted to show you how you could use this pipeline. I'm going to go real quick using my Google Analytics information. Let me stop sharing my screen. So here I easily set up my pipeline with Google Analytics as a source. I created my own custom reports, and everything is set up so that I can move it from the source, which is Google Analytics, to my BigQuery account. And what do I do with this? After doing this connection, I ingest it all from my Google Analytics to my BigQuery, and then I create this beautiful dashboard. It might seem a little redundant to do a Google Analytics dashboard when you can do a lot of the stuff on the actual platform. But the thing is that in this case, I can only choose what I want to see, and it's a lot easier to share a report that is custom made to my different clients than it is to give them access to my own platform. And also there are sometimes there's data that's well structured that cannot be presented any other way. So for example, here are all of the different points where people go to my webpage. So we can see that a lot of it is based off of Mexico and United States. So hopefully after this webinar, I see a lot of red and a lot of good people coming over here from India. and all of where you guys are from, right? So Google Analytics might be able to share the same information as some of these dashboards, but you can work with it and work with what your clients need. So for example, it might be only that we need Google Analytics now, but we might want to add data from our Google ads or Facebook ads so that we can sort of like look in the same scope where the people that are coming into our website, whether they're also going into our different social media models. So that's something that I love about Hevo. It's a process. It's not a project. It's not a product. As you grow, Hevo grows with you, allowing you to iterate on your ideas easily. As I said, if you start off with Google Analytics, that's great. Then we can start an all marketing dashboard where we look in the same dashboard, Facebook ads, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, TikTok ads, instead of looking at them all individually. And that saves you a lot of time, and it helps you get a lot of decisions quicker. For one of our clients, their cost per click reduced by 40% in over 3 months since they started taking decisions on their campaigns every day instead of every 15 days. So that quicker decision leads to reduced costs or higher impressions. So let me talk a little bit about the process and the lean analytics model that I like to use. We first start with building off ideas and then build it and then create the product, which is a dashboard. Then we measure and talk with our clients to see how they're using it, whether they like to see something else or add anything else. We check to see if we have the data, and if not, we create the necessary pipeline. Then we continue learning and we build off a new idea. So we started off with Google Analytics in this first iteration. Okay, I want to see the different marketing sources that we have. Okay, so we develop the idea, we build it, we create the dashboard, we measure it, we talk with our clients, we get any new data, and then we continue learning. I want to add to our marketing, our sales. So we can look at it at the sales dashboard. Okay, we create a new pipeline with our sales data and we continue building. So it's a process, which is something that I really enjoy. And it's something that Hevo helps me a lot with. So finally, Hevo is sort of like, as I said before, the engine that makes your company grow. It's not the end all. It's not the end. So Hevo will be providing more value as you grow, right? So the first thing we do in like the first few months, as we look to increase our value, is provide the fundamentals in the transition. As I said before, the digitalization, the access, the control, Hevo will help with all of that, moving everything into the cloud, where we have the correct infrastructure and where we have the good data governance processes, and we start building off of dashboards where we continue evolving and creating new dashboards, which is we're getting closer to the top of the pyramid. And then afterwards, we can go on and continue with our innovation phase, which is what creates the most value to our companies, which is the machine learning and AI models. But Hevo is there in every step of the way. If you want to start off getting your data once a day so that you can build this off and keep your costs low, that's perfectly fine. Once you have your machine learning models in production and you need that data every 5 minutes, it's also possible, right? So thank you very much for hearing me in this webinar. If you have any questions, there is the Q&A at the bottom that you can ask. And if you need to get in touch, these are our link tree so that you can get access to our social media platforms and also our website. And now I'll be giving everything to Arun.
Thanks a lot, Rodrigo. That was very insightful. Like Rodrigo mentioned, I just want to drop a reminder that if anyone has any questions at any time, you can type them out and send them in the Q&A tab. Someone from our team will either answer it immediately or one of our speakers will take up the questions at the end. With that, I'll pass the torch over to Arun, who will take us through the Hevo Data platform in more detail.
Thanks, Mathli.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, thanks a lot. And thanks, Rodrigo. That was very interesting to know how our end users are using Hevo to gather insights from their data and take important business decisions. Okay, so let me start sharing my screen and show the audience how easy it is to create pipelines using Hevo. Just give me 10 seconds. And my screen should be visible. Okay, perfect. Uh, so this is Hevo, which you can see on the screen currently. And Hevo is a no-code SaaS platform which helps you to create pipelines using our more than 150 inbuilt ready-made source connectors, so that you don't have to write even a single piece of code or say a single piece of script to create your pipelines and use your data to generate your business insights out of it, right? So without further ado, let me create a pipeline for a MySQL source. But before that, okay, let me just refresh this quickly. Yeah. So just to show you the list of source connectors we have. So as I mentioned, we have more than 150 connectors, which ranges from different databases, be it a SQL-based database, be it a NoSQL-based database, be it a SaaS platform, or if you want to ingest the data from a CSV file or an XML file, or say a text file which is residing in your S3 bucket or a Google Drive or your FTP, SFTP servers, so and so on, you can use all of these connectors, right? But again, having said that, these 150 plus connectors are no restriction to you, because if you are not able to find a connector for your choice of application, you can use a REST API or and a webhook connector, which again helps you to connect with any of your customized applications, right? So I'll start with MySQL as a source. To connect with MySQL, we establish a JDBC type of connection, right? And hence, we ask you for very standard information: the host of your database, the port, and the user credentials to connect with your database server, right? I'll name this pipeline, say a webinar demo. Yeah, this is the IP of my database server, the port, the user name, and the password as this. Let me just quickly test it out. Perfect, the connection is successful. So after providing the parameters to connect with the database server, below we have the option of how do you want to perform CDC, that is a change data capture with the source database. So here provides you with these three different options: the binlog, the table mode, and the custom SQL mode. So the binlog mode uses the logs on your database server to identify any of the new inserts or any of the updates or deletes which happens on your source tables or your source database, right? And the table mode and the custom SQL mode, these two modes are used when you are not able to use your logs, or you are trying to connect with a replica of your database. And to perform the CDC with your database, with the source database, the table mode and the custom SQL mode, they use the primary key IDs, a unique incremental IDs, and a updated timestamp column to identify the insertion updates, right? So I'll go with the binlog mode. And yes, more importantly, just because he was a SaaS platform, it does not limit you to use your source database to be only a cloud database server. It could be an on-prem, or it could be also inside your own private VPC network, right? But to connect with your on-prem or a private VPC, we have the option of connecting it via an SSH, or we also have advanced connectivity options like reverse SSH, VPC peering, VPC endpoint peering, VPN, AWS private gateway, and so on, right? So that was about the first step of pipeline creation. In the second step, Hevo pulls up the list of all the objects or all the tables which we have on the source side, so that if you don't want to pull all the tables or objects, you can pick and choose the ones which you want. So for example, I want only the employees, offices, and the order details table to be ingested. I chose those and I click on the continue button. In the third step, we have to configure the destination. So Hevo provides you an ability to load the data to any of the destinations which you can see on the screen. So we currently support the major cloud data warehouses and the most used databases to load your data to, right? So I'll go back and I'll choose the Snowflake destination, which I've already configured. And the fourth and the final step of pipeline creation, this is this. And in here, we have a couple of options. First is, if you want to tag your table names with a particular prefix, you can add the prefix here. Below that, you see a very single toggle called auto mapping. So you can enable and disable it at here. But what auto mapping is, I'll cover it in detail in the coming minutes. Okay, that is it. So it barely takes barely takes 30 seconds to create your pipeline from scratch, right? Now the pipeline is created, but we execute some jobs in the backend, and we'll take a couple of more minutes to ingesting your data and start loading the data to the destination. While we are doing that, let me open a pipeline which I have already created. I guess this is the correct one. Yes, it is. Okay, perfect. So once your pipeline is created and it starts ingesting the data, this is what the overview tab shows you. That is the summary of your pipeline, which includes what is the source of your pipeline, the destination in which you are loading the data to, the ingestion frequency, and the loading frequency of your destination. Right? These frequencies are something which you can customize right from the UI. I'll try to cover that as part of the demo. Below that, it shows you the different flow of data, right? So as a different the flow of data to different stages as soon as the data is ingested in Hevo. So as soon as the data is ingested, it goes to the ingestion stage, which you can see we have ingested 3.03 thousand records. The second stage of pipeline or the data flow is the transformation. So Hevo primarily is an ELT platform, but we do have some capabilities of preload transformation as well, or some capabilities of being an ETL platform too, right? So this is the transformation stage. So to talk about the use cases in which you can use the preload transformation, say you want to create new columns, you want to mask or hash your PII data, you want to filter out your events or records or rows, you want to rename your table names, and talk about more complex use case, you want to say flatten your JSONs irrespective of how much nested they are, or if you want to say split your arrays, incoming arrays, and load them in a splitted fashion into the destination. All of that can be performed in the preload transformation. And because why we call it the preload transformation, because this stage comes prior to the stage when the data is loaded to the destination, right? Now, so to perform the preload transformation, there are two options. For our tech savvy friends, we have the Python console right here in Hevo. So I'll give a very quick example. Whenever I say, okay, employees, for example. Yeah. So whenever I see, whenever I have a row in the employees table where the job title is sales rep, I want to create a new column with the field name of department and the value should be sales, right? I have written the Python script already for that. I'll get a random sample and then I'll click on the test button. Right? You now see there's a new column created as we have configured in the Python console, right? So once we have tested the script on a random sample, we can simply deploy the transformation script, right? So this was about the first method. In the second method, let me just clear this up. Yeah, in the second method, we have we have created this for our friends who are not very not in love with Python, or they are not very comfortable with Python. So for that, we have a drag and drop interface, right? In here, we provide you with around 25 pre-built transformations, which includes, of course, your masking of your data, changing the data types, renaming of your events, renaming of your fields, adding a new field, and so on. You just need to drag and drop that particular transformation which you want to use, apply the filter, apply the required parameters, and then you simply deploy it. Of course, after testing it out the way I just showed you, right? So coming back to the data flow, that was the transformation stage. Then we have the schema mapper stage. So Hevo has a very unique feature called auto mapping, and this auto mapping is magic, right? And I tell you why. Because auto mapping creates the required destination tables, their underlying columns, their underlying data types, to load the data to the destination without you worrying about creating any of it, right? And and this feature is available for all of these sources, irrespective of the type they are, the schema they have on the source side, how complex it is, how simple it is. It is available for every kind of source and every kind of destination, right? That is about the creation of the schema, but we also take care of any schema evaluation or schema changes, right? To give an example, say this employee number on the source side, after 1 week of pipeline creation, gets modified to employee ID, right? Whenever there's a change on the source side, we automatically, as in Hevo automatically captures that, and the required change on the destination table is done by Hevo again, right? So gone are the days when you have to keep an eye on the source schema, identify the change, make a change on the destination, right? So if you use Hevo, there would be absolutely zero BAU impacted. That is the business as usual impacted, right? So that was about the schema mapper. Then once the data goes from the schema mapper, it then ultimately gets loaded to the destination, right? But as I mentioned, Hevo is an ELT tool, right? So this was about the extraction and loading of the data. And to perform any kind of post-load transformation, right? We provide you with two options again. Either you can create a SQL model, or you can use the DBT core integration, which comes out of the box, right? For example, I have created the pipeline, I've got the data into my destination, and these are all the tables which I've got in my destination now, right? It contains the details about the orders, the order details, the product, different products I have in my store, and so on, right? But now I want to aggregate the data. I want to identify what are the number of orders for every product SKU or every product code which I have, right? I can write a DQL or a select query using the join function and the other standard SQL functions. I can test it out. Okay. Yeah, now you can see I've got the required details, and I now have the option of exporting the output of the select query either to an existing table, or if I want, Hevo can also create a new table to load the data, right? And how frequently I want this SQL query to be executed and want the data to be exported to the table of my choice, I can choose the frequency, how frequently I want to execute this from this particular option, right? That was the SQL model. Then coming to the DBT core. So Hevo comes with the DBT core integration, as I mentioned. So whatever DBT models you have on your Git repository, be it GitHub or a Bitbucket repository, you can configure that repository from here. And what are models we have on that repository that can be scheduled and monitored right from the same platform, that is Hevo, right? So to complete the picture and to summarize this, Hevo provides you with a single platform to extract your data, load your data, and of course make any in-flight transformation before loading your data to, maybe cleaning your data and so on. And once your data is loaded, what all kinds of database views you want to create out of it, that can be done using the either the SQL models or the DBT core integration which we have, right? So this completes the extraction, loading, and transformation of your data. right? Just taking one more minute of yours. Hevo provides you with the 24/7 live chat support right from the platform. As you can see on the bottom left of my screen, we have a live chat option. So we have human beings, not robots, sitting on the other side, always there to help you out and to answer your questions, right? And also we have very comprehensive detailed documentation available on docs.hevodata.com, right? So any kind of information you want to require, say how to create the pipeline, how to configure a particular source, how to configure a destination, how to use the preload transformation, the post-load transformation, and so on, and how to troubleshoot if you get stuck in any of your pipeline creation mechanisms. All of that answers can be found out here.